How's everybody doing today? Good? All right. Well, I'm excited to be able to talk about our 2025 budget. I can't believe it's that time of year already. And first, I just want to start by saying thank you to John Toohey. John, you've been working on this with us for the last couple of months, and I just want to thank you for your efforts and thank all of the staff who put a lot of time and energy into being able to create this document that will be on our website momentarily. So before we go into the 2025 budget, it's always nice to be able to just look back for a moment at some of the work that this budget has allowed us to do. And we've had some really amazing projects in this past year. And just thinking about whether it was Henry Street or some of the other really exciting projects that we've had, it's been a lot of work. But it's really been a partnership between all of our city staff, the Kingston Common Council, because these large capital projects, can't happen without the support of the full team. And so one of the things that has been so special about these is that they've also been really wide-ranging. So from Henry Street, where you just saw the ribbon-cutting photo, to the Dietz Stadium renovations, to the work that we're doing currently on Clinton Avenue, which will be wrapping up this year, to be able to create a brand-new gateway into the heart of Uptown Kingston, as well as the project that's happening just a block away, Post Office Park, where they're wrapping up their construction as well. 2024 has been a busy year. I think our last count was about 20 roads being paved as our last count so far. So that's a lot of work on behalf of the Department of Public Works and all of our team. And projects are not the only things we're working on. We also have a variety of initiatives that we have done to be able to help make Kingston a more affordable place to live, one that also provides all of the different resources and support structures. And so whether it's the passing all of the different housing legislation that the Common Council and my office were able to work cooperatively on to be able to get passed, whether it's acquiring a brownfield and Superfund site at Field Court, which has long been a vacant, neglected property, and now in city ownership, with our Midtown Thriving update, we're now going to be able to do some really unique and creative opportunities, and doors are going to open for that site that just was not available before. We also just recently announced an effort to be able to secure some really critical open space in the Wilbur area here in the city of Kingston. And so that is 70 acres of land that we are hoping to be able to protect and preserve here in the city, and while also making sure that we are keeping in mind some really important, additional work on developing housing. And so whether it's the business park architectural study that we're doing to be able to see, can we have a live-work space all in one part of our, in one campus? Can that help us also create jobs and help make sure that we can create a variety of unique infrastructure assets on a space that wasn't really looked at for that purpose back in the 90s when it was created? And so that's all 2024, and that's a really great just selection of what we've done, and we've been able to do all of that because the city is got a really strong backbone. Our fiscal health right now is strong. It's allowed us to be able to work on these projects. It's been able to allow us to invest in these key critical resources while not putting the city's overall financial picture in a negative light. And so that's not a lot of cities can say that. I think we've been able to be very conservative with our spending, but also investing creatively in the right places and at the right time. And that's allowed us to keep our fiscal stress score extremely low. We're at 3.3 out of 100. And so that's a really good sign. It's a measure that the Comptroller's office uses to just make sure that communities have, the rainy day fund, that they have all of the right prognoses to be able to make sure that they can keep the city afloat even during challenging fiscal times. It also means that we have a really wonderful opportunity to do these projects, it requires us to be able to access loan funding, in essence, bonding. In order to do that, it is good when we have a good bond rating, because that, in essence, like when you go to a bank to get a loan, if you've got good credit, you'll get a lower interest rate. If you've got not so great credit, sometimes you get a little bit higher of an interest rate. And so the same thing happens with cities and communities. And so with us, we have an AA minus, which AAA is the highest you can possibly get. And so having an AA minus is like the second rung down from that, which is really great for a municipality, especially one that has had and needs to make lots of improvements to be able to catch up over many years of not making those investments. And so we've been able to bond at really good rates and for the right projects, and that has helped us incredibly. But now we want to talk a little bit about 2025, and I'm sorry that the slides are a little small, but I will go over them so you don't have to try to read those. First, happy to report that we're not going to have any layoffs in the budget. That's always an important question that I get asked. Is anyone going to lose their job? No. We are thankfully able to keep our current staffing pattern and to be able to continue to deliver on those really incredible services that we provide. Through that, we really want to be able to make sure that we invest in our city staff, and that we've done through some really great initiatives and programs to have better retention, better recruitment, and that is really paying off in terms of the types of services that we can deliver. Due to some of the factors that I'm going to talk about in a moment, our tax levy is going to increase this year increase by 8.9%. But thankfully, our tax rates are still going to be below the 2016 levels when we first started doing our budgets. And so you can see on this next slide, back in 2016, our tax rates were at $10.16, and in 2025, they're going to be at $9.87. $9.87. And so you'll see that we are still below that historic number, and that just says a lot on all of the great budgeting that all of these staff do to be able to help keep costs as low as possible, but still deliver more services when it's being requested. This is also the non-homestead. Back in 2016, when I first inherited the budget, it was $18.31. And now in 2025, we're still down at $15.10. And so we've really made some strides to be able to reduce the tax rates for some of our non-homestead properties. This is a chart, which again, you can kind of get a sense of where we started and where we are, and we've really tried to be very stable. And I think that that's a picture of Kingston of stability, and our tax rates and our tax levy has really showed that. You can see where we started, back in 2016, and while there have been increasing pressures on municipal budgets all across the state and the country, we too are feeling those pressures. We have some unique pressures that we can talk about in a minute, but I wanted to just also get a little bit more detailed into some of the actual expenses, like where does it look like? And so you can see here in this pie chart that a lot of our expenses are in personnel services. So you've got the police department in orange, you've got the fire department in the dark green, general government operating in the blue. You can see that we have a lot of debt services as well as some other smaller costs. This is another way to look at it. Employee benefits is a big chunk of what we have to spend, as well as the personnel that make the city run. We have, just under 300 full-time equivalent employees that come to work for the city of Kingston every year. You can see our contractual expenses are kind of a minor part of that overall personnel and employee benefits. And then there's that sliver of the debt, which is what has helped us be able to do some of these really exciting projects, but we then do have to pay back our bills once we do them. And so going into what are the key areas that are driving our tax levy increase for 2025? And First, and I don't think it will come to any surprise to anyone, but earlier this year we had to take over paramedic transport service and basic life support transport services here in the city of Kingston. That was a cost that was previously paid by a private company. And now with the city of Kingston having to take on those costs, that is a cost that has shifted to us. It's one that we had to do because we needed to be able to make sure that our residents had access to these critical life-saving features, but it's something that we know is going to cost us money. And if you take that 8.9% tax levy increase that I talked about, 5% of that is just ambulance service. If we were to take off ambulances out of the budget, that would go back down to just under 4%. Of a growth in the tax levy. But again, it's critical. The next slide, we're actually going to show you that we have over 4,000 calls for service so far to date. And so that is, it's a lot of calls. The fire department and our EMTs and paramedics have been extremely busy. And they've been saving lives. And I think that that's one of the things that's just so important in this work is that it's not easy work. It's also not cheap, but it's the right thing to do. And for us, this is what matters. These are the metrics. These are the people in the city of Kingston that are getting help. And even with all of this, we've been able to still make sure that not only are we adding the ALS and BLS service, but we're also being able to make sure that we're helping with our mobile mental health team. And so just so far this year alone, we've been able to divert over 175 people from hospital care by providing them community care with our program. And so kudos to the fire department for all of that work. We're losing our sign here somewhere. One of the other things I wanted to just mention is that Dietz Stadium has been a very exciting and one of the largest capital projects we've undertaken. Thankfully, we didn't undertake it alone. It's actually a shared facility. It's co-owned by the City of Kingston and the Kingston City School District. Thankfully, the costs are also shared between the school district and the City of Kingston, but there are still substantial costs involved with Dietz Stadium. We will be spending about $1 million a year in debt service on our half of the Dietz Stadium project. And so that is a big investment for our taxpayers. And so that is a part of our growth in our debt costs is, of course, Dietz Stadium and some of these other projects that we've worked on. But it is something that the taxpayers and the school district have really gotten behind. And I want to thank all of our community members who have made this commitment financially to be able to help support this, because they too, like us, see the big picture of not only is this a place for their young athletes to be able to grow and to thrive and to be able to create lifelong friendships out there on that turf, but it's an opportunity for us to be able to work to build our economy in Uptown Kingston. I've already talked to many business owners that since the stadium opened, they have been super busy every time we have an event at the stadium, which during the last year when it was under construction, they didn't have. And so it's already helping bring more revenue into the city of Kingston, and it's only going to grow from here. One of the other things that we saw in 2025, or we see coming at us in 2025, is just an increase in liability and property insurance. When you look at the city budget for 2025, you're going to see that just for property insurance alone is a $300,000 increase just for that. And that is a significant amount from year over year. We obviously have had a lot of liability and property-related claims, and that has caused our insurance premiums to go up. And it's just something that we, as a city, now have to account for and pay for, because we obviously still need these protections from, some of these different issues that have arisen here in our city. We've also spent a lot of time and energy over the last couple of years investing in our city staff. We have worked really closely with all of our union members to be able to make sure that we could get wages up. And from 2020 till now, we've done, I think, a really commendable job of being able to make sure that we were paying our employees a living wage, being able to make sure that they could keep pace with all of the rising costs that were happening in our city, whether it was housing costs or medical costs. And to be able to make sure we do that, it does create budget growth, and you'll see that in the budget. But for me, it's really incredibly important to be able to make sure that we are investing in our staff. And something that I like to say is that, when we create, these employee raises and benefits, and investing in staff equals improved services. And I think for me, when we have employees who are committed to the work, as we see each and every day here in the city of Kingston, we want to be able to make sure that they are, putting their best foot forward. And the best way to do that is to pay them their wage that they deserve for being out there on the front lines each and every day. We also have invested a lot in equipment and capital projects. And so in 2025, I just wanted to highlight a couple of key areas that we're going to be proposing to invest. So everything from police department patrol vehicles to parks and recreation maintenance equipment to DPW dump trucks and a ton of equipment for the wastewater treatment plant, KFD turnout gear, and a whole bunch of other initiatives round out our equipment list for the proposed plan. But we also have a couple of exciting proposals in the capital plan to be able to meet the demands and needs of our residents. And working cooperatively with the Kingston Common Council, and I want to thank our council members that are here today for your support and your ideas as we kind of worked through sort of this early budget process. And that is, we need more funding to be able to help put together better traffic calming measures in the city. We've been able to cooperatively work around the city on some of these projects, and when we have these ward meetings, we have heard time and time again that we want to be able to have slower speeds. We want to have better pedestrian crossings. We want to be able to have drivers, doing everything that they can to keep everyone around them safe, and also being able to make sure that we're supporting pedestrians and cyclists. And so one of the best ways to do that is to be able to actually invest in relatively, I consider it the low-hanging fruit, whether it's the rapid flashing beacons that you see around the city or the traffic calming devices that we just installed on Westchester Street, these speed tables. These are things that have a relatively large impact, but have a somewhat of a lower dollar value, and it doesn't cost $1 million to put in a speed table. And so by creating a new fund in the capital plan that we can draw from, we're really excited to have that, and so that has been proposed. It's related, but also somewhat different, is the city we know has a large, extensive sidewalk network. We've done some great work to be able to monitor where those sidewalks are, but we've never really taken a deep dive into what is the condition of the sidewalks, what are the areas where we have these missing gaps, and what is it going to take to actually fix our sidewalks. It's the number one complaint that we have sidewalks that people trip on all the time. What can we do about it? And one of the best things that we can do about it is to be able to create a sidewalk improvement plan, which will literally go and look at every single piece of sidewalk here in the city of Kingston and determine its condition, and then also identify areas where we don't have sidewalks. And so I really look forward to hopefully being able to implement this plan. We also recently applied for a grant to help fund this plan as well. And so it's a big project, but it's an important project, and it's going to then give my administration and our Common Council members an opportunity to really understand what can we do as a city to be able to help improve our sidewalks on a much larger scale than the kind of street-by-street project development that we've been doing over the last couple of years. There's a couple of other 2025 projects that I just wanted to mention. We are going to be going into 2025 doing some sewer work. We are going to be putting in some brand new solar on some of our properties here in the city of Kingston. Excited to announce that 2025 is also going to bring new wayfinding signage to many areas of the city. One of the biggest things that we've heard is that people don't know how to get from point A to point B in our business districts. And so people arrive on a cruise ship in the Roundout, and they think that all we have is in the Roundout. And while we do have a lot of great opportunities down there, we want some better signage to be able to let people know that we have this beautiful arts district and vibrant community in Midtown. We have this historic neighborhood that is still relatively intact from the 1700s in Uptown. The best way to do that is to be able to have some better signage. And so that project is going to be moving forward and being actually built in spring of 2025. So we're really excited to see that come to fruition. We're also going to be working on a lot of infrastructure projects at intersections in the city. As you've noticed, we've done a lot of ADA improvements at curbs all around the city. We're going to be continuing that with the help of the engineering office in 2025. But we've also identified some intersections that need a little bit more help. And so we're going to be making an investment to be able to make sure that, for instance, the intersection of Wall and Main Street in Uptown Kingston will actually be improved for both pedestrians and vehicles, as it's been one of the more highly, pointed at intersections where improvements can be made. And so we're excited to be able to put that on our list for next year. And even just right here behind City Hall at the intersection of Garden and Prince, it's a rough intersection when you've got 5 streets all coming in and no one can see each other. And so those are the types of projects that we're going to be focusing on and are excited to work on. One of the new things that you're also going to see in the budget is an entire section all about shade trees. Thanks to United States Forest Service grant from the USDA and a New York State DEC grant, we now have not only full-time staff focused on urban forestry, but we also have hundreds of thousands of dollars behind it to be able to do plantings, tree removals of dead and dying trees, as well as pruning our really important street trees. And so that is now in the budget for 2025. We're really excited to be able to see that investment actually happen. One of the things that we like to also think about is that we've done a lot of work in Uptown and Midtown to be able to help create some energy and some synergies and some partnership. We've been able to bring in lots of grant funding in those different neighborhoods. And one of the things that started moving me in this direction of supporting the downtown was a long-term effort to be able to get a federal DOT grant called the RAISE grant, which we received in 2023, to be able to create a whole new walking infrastructure from Midtown all the way to Kingston Point Beach. And that, for me, kind of set off this is an opportunity to invest in downtown Kingston. There has been a lot of energy, in the neighborhood about urban renewal and the effects of urban renewal. And so we've now been able to piece together a variety of projects that we think are going to have lasting, incredible impacts to the neighborhood. And that's everything from the work that we're doing to make sure that Kingston Point Beach survives for a few more years with all of the terrible flooding and storms that we've had. This is an opportunity to re-envision, recreate, and really create a resilient, sustainable Kingston Point Beach. We're going to be putting in a brand new kayak dock on the Roundout Creek. Now that beautiful Wirt Street Bridge is done, we now have access to be able to work on this brand new dock project. We also received a grant to be able to put new bathrooms in the Roundout Neighborhood Center. I know it may not mean a lot to folks if you haven't hung out at the Roundout Center, but as someone who did, the bathrooms are literally from 1970 and haven't been improved since. And so we definitely want to be able to, we lost the sign again. Yes, improve signage. One of the things that we have seen time and time again at the Roundout Center is that, it has the potential to and does host so many great events, but when you have bathroom facilities that are outdated, not ADA accessible, it really limits who can and wants to use the facilities. And so we now have grant funding and are going to be putting that as a priority in 2025. And that all is coming at the same time as what you've all heard about, is this brand new initiative to be able to secure property along Garrigan Drive to turn it into housing and mixed use and really create what has been a void since urban renewal into something brand new. And so that is going to be a really exciting project for us in 2025. And a lot of these projects that I mentioned are all supported by grants. You know, obviously the $50+ million budget that we have here in the city of Kingston cannot do this all alone. Our taxpayers can't afford to do all of these great projects alone. And so we have to go out looking for funding. And so all of our project managers, our grant management department, that's all we do, is we look for grants. We try to piece these grants into projects that we're working on. And in the end, we're able to tell a really compelling story about how this money can and has gone to really good use in Kingston and why they should give us more. And so right now, we're managing $91 million in grants as of this moment. And that's really exciting for the city of Kingston. And it's something that we're going to continue to do. And you'll see as a part of the overall budget process, we also provide the Common Council with a full capital plan, so you can see all of the different projects that we're working on here in the city of Kingston. And so with that, that's the budget wrap up. And I just want to say that today, and now that I've completed this part of the journey, it now turns over to the Kingston Common Council. And I want to just thank the members of the Kingston Common Council, because this is where your work really begins. And I know that it's a lot of meetings. You guys meet almost nightly for weeks upon weeks to be able to make sure that this budget is what you want as well. And so I'm really looking forward to working with you through that process, and I know all of my staff look forward to that as well. And so with that, I just want to say thank you all for coming today. Thank you for being a part of our budget announcement, and I hope you have a really great day. Thank you.